So it's good to talk. I watched the film, powerful film. I hope that it helps people think about how some things have changed and, unfortunately, some things haven't changed. I'd love to know from you, how do you think about like what hasn't changed or what has changed since that time, since the 60s, since the civil rights movement and the era of the Black Panthers? How do you think about what's changed or what hasn't?
I think the way that we mobilize and communicate obviously has changed dramatically. And the way that we even are able to express ourselves is different, for many different reasons, mainly the internet, things of that nature. And sadly, I think the ways in which things haven't changed is the way that the government relates to how it approaches uprisings and people that attempt to challenge what it has already put in place and what has been put in place for years, which is to say, they view it in an unfavorable light. And I think that should change. And I think it will change. And as long as we continue to wage war on all fronts against things that attempt to have us under tyranny. And, if it isn't that, that's another thing. But if it is that, then I think we should have appropriate responses. And I think the internet is helping us mobilize in a unique way.
It is interesting. I think about 2020. A lot of people don't realize that the police actually killed more people in 2020 than every year of data we have, except for 2018. That the police actually killed more people in 2020 than 2019. It actually is like consistent across time and place. Wasn't a dip during COVID, quarantine, or lockdown, or the protests. Like the police killed about 1,100 people a year, and that feels like that was probably true back then as well. I'd also love to know, what does the phrase "all power to all the people"? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, in unity and in numbers, we can institute change, and that's the way that you do it. And I think the powers that be realize that, and the reason that the power is in the hands of a very small few is because I think sometimes the masses need to be reminded of our power and unification. And so I think that's a great mantra and a reminder that together we can move mountains. And that means people from all different kinds of backgrounds and ethnicities or races, whatever you want to call it. If we can find a way to move as a unit, there's nothing we can't do.
This has been such a wild last year. And even when I think about the movie, in so many ways, it is a tragedy. What do you say to people who might be losing hope? People who they stood in the street, they called, they emailed, they protested, they ran for office, they did all the things, and yet they look up and they're like, still sort of looks like it did yesterday, right? What do you say to those people?
That number one, I understand and I feel you. I understand the pain. And it may look like things won't change, but in my life, I realized that you got to stay persistent and consistent and fighting the fight. And, change is incremental. And, I think that we have to have hope. We're human beings. We don't give up. We continue to push forward in the face of insurmountable odds. And, especially us as Black people, even in this pandemic, it's affecting us a lot. And I know that you could feel like, that everything is hopeless and it's all up in the air. But in the moments, you got to find a reason to push through. And if all of us push through at the same time, like I said, with unification, there's nothing that can change, nothing that can be overcome, So just continue to push and find a reason to have some hope and confide in your family and friends and in yourself. They can't stop us,
And then the last question is about Chairman Fred's legacy. When I think about it, I think about a young person who helped bring people together and helped them find their power in ways they didn't always know they had as like a group and a unified community. And that still resonates with me. I think about the protests in 2014 and we were in the street for 400 days. And then the last wave of protests helped so many people realize they had a voice that they always had. And that's what the best of organizing is, I'd say. But I'd ask you, how do you think about the legacy of Fred Hampton in this moment? How do you, what's the top lesson to learn, or what should we carry with this?
That to stand up for the truth in the face of people, particularly maybe administrative agency that isn't concerned with the truth. Requires courageousness and sacrifice. To do anything great requires that. And I think that you have to love something much more than yourself in this life. You have to find the thing that's above you that causes you to fight without any hesitation for what you believe in. And it's important and it moves us. It's part of what it means to be human, is to let go of this human state and know that there's much more at stake in the balance than this. And I think that's a courageous and brilliant thing to aspire to be. And that's what Fred was and is. So
I hope that it helps people understand sort of what's at stake, because I do, I worry about the police. When we think about the 60s to today, the police are one of the only institutions that we fought in civil rights that have only gotten more power, not less. Like, there's not a moment we can look at the police state and be like, wow, you know what? They really got less power. It's like, that didn't happen. So I do, as somebody who does this every day, I'm worried and really hopeful. There are a lot of things that people don't realize. The police kill more people in suburban communities than almost all other communities combined. It's not cities, interestingly. There's a set of cities where only Black men get killed, which is also wild. So we have a lot more work to do. And I'm hopeful that this film opens up space for people to think more deeply about that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, and everyone that's engaged in the fight on the front lines like you is helping make the difference. So thanks.
Cool. Boom.